Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to the 12th Winter 2020-21 Update Part 2. So here we go again, it's time for another Winter Update, release a second part of another Winter Update. And yeah, of course, this second part is going to be analogs based, as all of the number 2s have been over the past 3 months. It's going to be an analogs based video, so we're going to be looking at QBO today. Very significant and important data for part 2 of the 12th Winter 2020-21 update. And yeah, so we'll be doing that for you very, very shortly. Just say that part 1 of this winter update, 12th winter update, has been placed on Winter Updates page now. There's a written summary that goes with it as well, so you'll be able to watch that and have, watch that on demand and have a written summary whenever you would like to do that. The first video today was the 10 to 14 day video update. So yeah, that's like looking at weather, of course, the next 10 to 14 days, and have some regular features with it as well. Do check out that one. And we have a Christmas update for you. There'll be a Christmas update coming up tonight in a couple of hours, around 8 PM. So I think that's a night Christmas update that we're up to now. So yeah, have a bit of fun, see what CFSV2 is showing for Christmas on our 9th Christmas update later on. Right, so I shall get on the video for you in a moment. Just to say thank you so much to Richard for the amazing gift here. Thank you so much to our good friend Richard Short for the fantastic Winter Updates gift. Thank you so much to Shryan as well for all of Shryan's help getting this data together. So Shryan has compiled all of the relevant years that I need to get the analogs together. So thank you so much to Shryan for doing that. This won't be as long as some of the winter updates have been, but nevertheless, it will be a longish video, so if you can't watch it all in go, you'll be able to watch the video on demand whenever you want to do that at GavsWeatherVids.com on Winter Updates page from tomorrow morning. It'll be placed on Winter Updates page tomorrow morning with a written summary as well. So you'll be able to watch the video either at website or on the channel on demand, and also you will be able to have a read of that written summary as well. We're nearly at the end of our winter updates. Can you believe it? More about that at the end of the video, but we are now beginning to run down the clock to the end of the winter updates. I can't believe that, but anyway, more about that at the end of the video. Right, let's get on with it then. So, of course, as I say, we're looking at the QBO today, the Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation. This is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. It doesn't drive anything in its own terms. It just tells us what the atmosphere is doing, and it's looking at the strength of the zone of westerlies, basically. So when we're in the easterly phase of the Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation, the QBO, then the zone of westerlies are going to be weakened and can sometimes be reversed. But when we're in westerly phase of the QBO, the zone of westerlies are strengthened. So basically, at its most crudest, and there are a lot of years that sort of go against this, but at its most basic, like an easterly phase of the QBO favours more in way of blocking in winter, and so colder weather for Northern Europe and also the UK, whereas a westerly QBO in the winter will favour a strengthened westerly sort of zonal flow. And so a milder winter is favoured with a westerly QBO, a colder winter is favoured with an easterly QBO. Of course, where you run into trouble with that hypothesis is that there are some easterly QBO winters, or quite a lot of easterly QBO winters actually, that are very mild, and there are, a few westerly QBO winters that are pretty cold as well. It's just talking about generalities, really. In general, a westerly QBO will favour a milder winter, and an easterly QBO will favour a colder winter, but it is not really that straightforward. Right, so this is where we left off, of course, with part 1. So I don't want to go too in-depth in this, because you already know what's happening. But I'll just quickly go over it again. So, what's happening in terms of a QBO. So, we had a westerly QBO during 2019. So, 2019 was a westerly QBO year, weakening later on in the year. We go into 2020, just here, and we begin the next phase of the easterly QBO, the next easterly phase of the Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation, which gathers pace, as you would expect it to do, through the end of winter and into the spring. But into the summer, we see that easterly QBO beginning to weaken. And actually, as we go into like late summer, we find the easterly QBO reversing back into westerly. And then through the autumn, that westerly QBO has strengthened. So our last number here for October 2020 for the QBO is plus 10.80. That is a proper, you know, really quite strong westerly phase of the QBO. It can go stronger than that, like in, for example, in 2019. We got the numbers into the 14s, plus 14.59, plus 14.36 at the peak of the 2019 Westerly QBO. So it can go stronger than this, but plus 10 is pretty strong. So, you know, there's no sort of messing about, there's no dilly-dallying about that. That is a proper Westerly QBO, and sort of there's no getting away from that. Now, so what we can say is that the ECQBO failed. Like we did start the ECQBO, but it failed and reversed back into a westerly QBO, which is very unusual. Normally the QBO should be reliable, should be pulse-like, constantly oscillating between westerly and easterly phases all the time, almost like a heartbeat beating away. So the only other time that we think that this has happened was in 2016, and that's when we had a Super Ningo, of course, in 2015-16. But we didn't go as far into ECQBO in 2016. So you notice we begin 2016 with a proper westerly QBO. By March and April of 2016, we're seeing that weakening, but still, even at its weakest in April 2016, still remaining sort of just about westerly. Then westerly QBO sort of powers back up again through like the rest of the spring, the summer, and the autumn of 2016. Whereas this time, we did actually go into the ECQBO. You know, that's a strange thing about this. We did properly go into proper ECQBO with these negative numbers. We did sort of begin this easterly QBO phase. It did actually start to power up as well, by the way, through the spring. But then it just completely reversed and flipped back into westerly QBO, which is very unusual, highly unusual for that to happen. Anyway, let's have a look at this then. So this is from NASA. So this is showing like the current state of the QBO. Again, we looked at this at the end of part 1 of this 12th winter update. So what you have to think with this is that like this is the very top of the atmosphere and stratosphere. That's 10 HPA. This is the troposphere. This is the all-important tropospheric level from around 30 to sort of 50 HPA. My line's a little bit wonky there, but you get the idea. 30, 50 HPA is the troposphere. So all of this is like the stratosphere. This is like the troposphere. And then this sort of level is what we would classify as like the lower troposphere, if you like. So it's going to get, you know, quite a low way down. So, of course, we can see the easterly westerly QBO phases with this. This is the westerly, no it's not, that's, that's wrong. That's the easterly QBO phase there. The last proper easterly QBO phase was from 2017 to 2018. This is the westerly QBO phase just here, the last proper westerly QBO phase from like 2000 and late 2018 into through 2019. So, of course, we should have seen the ECQBO developing and pushing down from the stratosphere into the troposphere. Yeah, we should have had the ECQBO pushing down from the strat to the trop. And we should now be in like a strong and mature ECQBO phase. What actually happened is these raggedy lines just here continued. So that's like the Westerly QBO just not quite going. Although we did go into the ECQBO actually. So it did sort of push down. Particularly through here and up there, of course. But we never quite got rid of Westerly QBO. And then, of course, we see Westerly QBO returning and strengthening through the summer. And, of course, as we've already explained, we are back in a proper Westerly QBO phase now within the troposphere. The ECQBO is still there, though. The ECQBO is still lurking at the very top of the stratosphere. If we zoom in, you'll be able to see that the easterly QBO is still there, and if anything, it's possibly powering up slightly. So the darker the the bars, like these deep blue bars, the darker they are, the stronger the event is becoming. So yeah, we've got a proper sort of easterly QBO there, setting up a very, very top of the atmosphere in the stratosphere, trying to push down into the troposphere. But still in the troposphere, we have the westerly QBO. Now, because as far as we know, the QBO is very reliable and won't normally fail, we have to kind of ignore the fact that we've had a failure of the ECQBO. Although we can't really, it is a factor. But for our analogs, because that will only give us like one analog to go with, or maybe two, or something. But it certainly won't give us very many to go with. If we just went with the fact that the ECQBO failed and only looked at like Westerly QBOs after failure of the ECQBO, we won't get very far at all. So we don't ignore that, but sort of we can't focus on it too heavily. What we've got to focus on is basically just the fact that we are in a Westerly QBO. So the first thing we've got to look at with our analogs is Westerly QBO winters. Very simple, you know, winters that are proper, mature, strong, Westerly QBO winters. There's no sort of developing Westerly QBOs with this. So all of these winters have already gone through the development of Westerly QBO, and they are just solid, you know, solid, proper Westerly QBO winters. So the first one is going to be 1857-1858. This is quite a cold winter, actually, especially late on. It has above average heights in the North Atlantic and up towards Greenland. It has below average heights. By the way, with this, the only way we can do it reliably is from 1950 onwards. So you're not going to see any data from like the early 20th century or back into the Victorian era. All of the years will be after 1950. Right, so this is quite a coldish winter with this Westerly QBO, 1957-1958, with low pressure sitting over to the east of country, high pressure is out to our west. That leaves us putting down like a northerly wind. It's relatively mild early on. December 1957 is pretty mild, but then it gets a lot colder as we go through into the latter stages of the winter and even into, even into the spring, actually. Next Westerly QBO winter is 1966-1967. This looks like it should be quite a coldish winter. It's actually one of the milder winters of the 1960s. Many of the 1960s winters were cold. Some of them brutal cold, you know, 63, coldest winter since 1740, the daddy of cold winters. Or the daddy of cold winters. But although this one looks like it should be quite a coldish winter with above average heights in the North Atlantic going up towards Greenland, actually, this is a relatively mildish sort of winter for 1966, 1967. Not particularly cold. It does have cold snaps. All of the 1960s winters have that. But for a 1960s winter, that's actually one of the milder ones. This is also quite a mild Westerly QBO winter. This is 1971-1972. Again, this one with below average heights to our west, above average heights to our east. So it does have a Scandinavian high, but generally it's quite a dryish and mild winter with a lot of sort of southerly type influences with that one. The next winter is 1975-1976 for a Westerly QBO winter. This is a very dry winter. This is in the middle of the Great Drought of the 1970s, of course, where most of the seasons were dry, the winters included. And that's why it was a great drought, of course. So this one, anticyclonic and mild, with high pressure in the North Atlantic reaching into the UK. Low pressure is to the north. Jet stream is pushed northwards as well. So that is a dry and mild or very mild winter for 1975 and 1976. We've got 1980, 1981. Next, this one with above average heights out to our west, below average heights are to the north and also to the east as well. So with that one, we're kind of Atlantic based. Again, there are some colder snaps in there. It's not a particularly cold winter. It's one of the milder winters for like the late 70s to early to mid 80s. That's one of the milder winters really. But it does have some cold weather at times during 1980 and 1981. I think maybe February 1981 is quite a coldish sort of month. But it has a cold November in 1980 as well. Overall, that's a slightly milder winter from the early 80s. This is another reasonably mild winter. This is 982, 983, although it does have a cold February with this. This one has low pressure to the north, high pressure is out to west. We're tending to be bringing in like a westerly type flow. So that's another reasonably mild winter until late on, and then it gets cold in February. Very stormy around New Year of 82, 83. Now, this is a proper cold winter with Westerly QBO. So that just goes to show what I was saying, that although Westerly QBO will tend to favour a milder winter, there are exceptions. This is one of them. It's 85, 86. This is a very cold winter, actually. You know, it gets severely cold in February of 1986. And in between, so there are regular cold snaps. So January, early January 1986 has a snowy spell in the first week. There's a cold spell between Christmas and New Year of 1985 as well, although December 85 is generally quite a mild sort of month. But anyway, it sort of has low pressure across North and Western Europe, high pressure blocking up towards Greenland, winds in from the east. You can see how it gets very severely cold in February of 1986, can't you, with that trough of low pressure combined with northern blocking pulling in those very cold easterlies. And they've got another cold winter. This is 1990-1991, again occurring with a westerly QBO. This one, of course, Scandinavian high. We've got the Scandi high up here. We've got low pressure to our south. We're bringing in the winds from the east for the winter of 1990-1991. So, yeah, Beast from the East is unleashed in February of 1991. Of course, has a severely cold and snowy spell during the first half of February 91. Before that, there are cold and snowy outbreaks as well. Then we have a long gap through to 0809. So our next, our next sort of proper westerly QBO winter, which is neither developing or changing something else. Our next solid westerly QBO winter is 0809. This is another pretty cold winter, actually. This one, again, with higher pressure to the north, lower pressure to the south. This is the first of the run of cold winters from 0809 to 1213. And again, this one brings in the east winds. It's particularly cold again, similar to 991, I suppose, in some ways. Particularly cold and snowy through the first half of February of 2009. Quite interesting how the later winters have actually got a little bit colder. Then we've got 2010, 2011, another one. Of course, this one includes a December to remember as well, with intense northern blocking up towards Greenland in December and low pressure push southwards. I think these are probably a little bit more encouraging, aren't they, than you're probably thinking they were going to be. I bet you're all thinking that like Westerly QBO means it's curtains for cold winters. It's not the case. It is not the case, especially the more recent winters, actually, the more modern winters with Westerly QBO tended to be like the colder winters, interestingly. So yeah, I mean, there are, as I said, there are exceptions, particularly the more recent winters. So we have got the December to remember included with Westerly QBO, of course, and of course through December of 2010 we're bringing in those bitterly cold northerly and easterly winds. Although overall it does get milder later on in winter, it is still a very cold winter and contains the coldest December since 1890. Wow. This is a proper mild winter, though, with a westerly QBO. This is 2013, 2014. And again, look, we've got the low pressure out to our west. We're bringing in those very mild westerly winds. So that is a really mild and stormy winter for 2013 to 2014. Exceptionally wet and mild and stormy too. This is perhaps the most relevant for this winter in terms of the failure of the QBO, really, the easterly QBO. So this is 2016-17. This is like the first winter that follows on from the easterly QBO failure in early 2016. This is like the next winter on. So this one possibly, is more relevant than any other. But again, every situation is different and unique. This one just has high pressure sitting across northern and western parts of Europe. It's a very dry winter. It's an anticyclonic winter. It does have some stormy weather, and it's a mild winter as well. Overall, winter of 2016, 2017, definitely one to forget. And we've got 2018, 2019, and of course this is quite a dryish sort of winter as well. Very bizarre pattern with like above average heights through most of northern Western Europe and the North Atlantic too. So I mean it's mainly dry with that, with a lot of dry weather during 2018, 2019. And pretty mild as well, although it has a colder spell in January, but it never gets particularly cold. So overall, it's quite a mild winter, especially very mild in February of 2019. Right, so putting all of that together, this is how all Decembers combined are coming out with the Westerly QBO. And overall, it's a mild signal for the Decembers, although it does have a December to remember in there. So, of course, there are exceptions, as we say. But overall, putting them all together, the Decembers tend to have low pressure to the north, high pressure to west-southwest, and we tend to bring in those westerly winds. So the Decembers are quite clearly Atlantic-driven and favouring a milder outcome, with the exception of like 2010 and one or two others, I suppose. Much more interesting for all January's combined though with a westerly QBO. Then we get a mid-Atlantic ridge, and it does start to move up towards a degree of northern blocking anyway, with the below average heights of low pressure sitting to our south and east and tending to be pulling down like a northerly or northeasterly to maybe slightly easterly wind actually. So the Januaries clearly have a higher propensity to be colder compared to the Decembers. That's not to say that every January in there is going to be cold, but obviously, you know, that is a much more potentially colder month compared to the Decembers. And all Februaries combined look quite interesting as well, because then we get a proper Scandinavian high developing with these all Februaries combined, and its position is sort of ridging out towards Greenland and Iceland. There is low pressure to like the south and the southwest as well, just here. Whoops, let's change the colour. So there's low pressure through here. But overall, these Februaries look like they could be quite cold, with the winds coming in from the east. I mean, it does include 86, it includes 1991 and 2009 as well. So yeah, I mean, the Februaries look like they could well be sort of Scandinavian high-based and bringing in cold east winds a lot of the time. All Marches combined look milder, so we start to bring low pressure back in from the Atlantic. The high pressure sort of collapses in Central Europe, and we're reverting back to a milder westerly type pattern in the Marches. And all Winters combined look like this. So low pressure tend to be to the south. All Winters combined with Westerly QBO, I should say. Low pressure tends to be south. High pressure is there around Scandinavia and in the middle of the North Atlantic as well. Winds in from the east. So, I mean, yes, it could well be, but these Westerly QBO winters, whilst overall they may favour a milder outcome, you know, more often than not, these Westerly QBO winters might be mild. There are significant exceptions, and a cold winter is certainly not impossible when you have a Westerly QBO. Right, I'm going to pause the video there, and we're going to return in around 2 seconds, and when we do that, we're going to be looking at some more QBO winter data, and I'll explain what that's going to be after the break. But you go and stretch your legs, get yourself a cup of tea and some nibbles, and I'll see you back very, very soon. Okay, back. We're ready to resume part 2 of the 12th winter 2020. If you enjoyed this update, then please give us a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what you think, and make sure you're subscribed to the GavsWeatherVids YouTube channel. It'd be absolutely fantastic if you can all do that. So we're going to look at more QBO data now. We're going to look at more data for the Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation. So what we're going to look at, so we looked at Westerly QBO winters, you know, just solid Westerly QBO winters before the break. The other possibility, I think we can rule out an Easterly QBO winter, because we're so, you know, we have such a strong Westerly QBO winter as we are starting. But I think we will rule out this winter being an Easterly QBO winter. However, what could happen is that we transition, you know, we're going to transition from west to east. So we start winter with Westerly QBO, we end the winter with an Easterly QBO. It's a possibility. I will think it's reasonably unlikely. I will think the next Easterly QBO phase will complete the the transition may start with this winter, but I don't think it will complete with this winter until like in the spring. I don't think we'll complete the transition from west to east until the spring. But it is a possibility that we may see the easterly QBO just suddenly descending, especially at how it's been like trapped in the stratosphere and it's there, it's ready to go, just wants to come down. So it is a possibility that we might, transition very quickly from the west to the east QBO, because we should be in an easy QBO anyway. So we can't rule out the possibility that might happen. So the second thing we've got to look at is winters that are transitioning from a west to an east QBO. And these are winters. There aren't all that many of them, actually. So, the transition from a west to east QBO tends not to happen during winter as much, interestingly. But it has happened, some of the time. And so the first winter that is transitioning from a west to an east QBO is the winter of 1955-1956. This one has the low pressure, below average heights to our south and east, the above average heights away to our north and northwest, and winds tending to be coming in from an easterly direction. So cold and wintry for winter of 55-56, and particularly so in February of 1956, which is a severely cold month, brutal cold month in February 1956. The next winter that is transitioning from a west to an east QBO is 1964-1965. That's a very delayed easy QBO, by the way. So 1964 is a year that's kind of comparable to this year, although not really. But we do see a very delayed onset of the easy QBO through 1964, but the transition happens during winter 64-65. This one is another pretty cold winter. As I say, most of the winters of the 1960s were cold, so this one has lots of low pressure to our south and east, and of course it has a high pressure to the north and to the west, and the winds are tending to be coming in from that easterly direction. So the winter of 64-65 tends to be cold and wintry as well. This is a much milder winter. This is 73-74. This is an Atlantic-driven, mild and wet winter with low pressure out to our west and income the westerly winds. So that is a very mild winter for 73-74. 95-96 is our next winter. That is a west to east transitioning QBO winter. This is a cold winter, of course. This one has a high pressure over Scandinavia and the low pressure to our south, and winds are in from the east, of course. Very, very easterly winter. Has lots of easterly winds in the winter of 1995-1996. The next one is 1997-1998. Again, this is a transitioning west to east QBO winter. This is a very mild winter, exceptionally so, with high pressure through most of northern and southern Europe, and dragging up these very, very mild winds from the south. So that's a very, very mild winter for 97-98. Also, of course, it's a super El Nino winter. 2003-2004 is our next sort of west to east transitioning QBO winter. This looks like it should be a cold winter, doesn't it? With above average heights to our northeast. You would think we're bringing a lot of east winds. Actually, it's not particularly cold. It's actually quite a mild winter for 2003 and 2004. 0405 comes up next. So 2004-2005, again with high pressure out to our west and bringing in a northwesterly to northerly type wind. That gets very cold late on. So most of winter of 0405 is mild, but there is a very prolonged and protracted cold spell that takes place late in February and through to March 2005. And then lastly, of course, we've got 2019-2020, because we did have a transition last winter from a west to an east QBO, although the east QBO, it died virtually as soon as it started, but nevertheless, last winter was a west to east transitioning QBO winter, and so this one has the high pressure to the south and the low pressure to the north. That's a polar vortex of doom, of course, and in are those very strong westerly winds, so very mild and wet for winter of 2019-2020. Right, putting all of those years together, then it's how all Decembers combined are looking, where we have a west to east transitioning QBO. So we do get a little bit of higher pressure in the North Atlantic. Lower pressure covering most of Northern and Western Europe. Just was quite unsettled, and probably a lot of the time it's mild in those Decembers. All January is combined with with west to east QBO transitioning scenario. Shows higher pressure to be to our northwest and also to our east. Low pressure is up there and down here. It's a very complicated pattern, but probably milder really. With the Januaries, where we've got a west to east transitioning QBO, compared actually interestingly to like the solid westerly QBO winters. Could be. And then all Februaries combined look like that. So just anticyclonic really for these Februaries. Much less interesting, isn't it? I'm sure you wasn't expecting that as well. I bet you wasn't. Much less interesting when the QBO is transitioning from like its west to east phase, compared to just like a solid westerly QBO. I wouldn't expect to see that when I saw the data, but there we go, that's it. So really when you transition from a western east QBO, you're favouring like a milder winter compared to if you have like a solid west QBO, which I was not expecting to see. All Marches combined looking like this, with high pressure tending to be to our north. So those Marches could be cold. They could be. But probably more often than not, they're just reasonably dry and spring-like, I suppose. And then lastly, we've got all winters combined with a transitioning west to east QBO. And with these, we tend to have the above average heights out to our north and west. But below average heights tend to be to our south. Winds tend to be coming in from the east. And so, I mean, it's a complicated pattern really, Bat. And you'll probably look at that and think you're favouring a colder winter. But you aren't really. I don't think you are really. I think with a lot of these transitioning QBO winters from west to east phase, a lot of them are mild. And I don't think you're particularly favouring a colder winter, although there are colder winters in there, especially the earlier ones. And that's it then. So that brings us to the end of part 2 of the 12th Winter 2020 update. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids as well. And we are grinding our way ever more to 9k subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, so that's it then. So as I say, we're virtually at the end of winter updates now. I've just got one more winter update to do for you. That'll be the 13th winter update. Again, being 2 parts, Sunday and Monday. We've got 13th winter 2020-21 update. And with that one, again, we're going to be looking over everything, but we always look at it in winter updates. I think for the analogs, we're going to try and do some November data. It's always very tricky, because we're before the end of the month. So we're going to have to project and try and just come up with where we think we're going to finish up with this November in terms of the temperature of it. Anyway, probably like autumn November temperature data. We may not be able to do anything on the rainfall side, actually, but we shall see anyway. We'll sort it out in the next few days. That's going to be coming up in the 13th winter update on Sunday and also on Monday. And then that's it. Winter updates are over, and all that's left is to release the GavsWeatherVids Winter 2020 forecast, which will be released on Wednesday, the 2nd of December. We're virtually at the end of the journey now, guys, but one more winter update to go, and that will be coming up. Part 1 of that 13th winter update will be coming up on Sunday. For this one, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.